Hey guys, Jexie here. Welcome back to another video. I do want to apologize that I look a little crappy. I'm definitely congested. One of my kids is sick, but I still wanted to put out a video for you guys. Today we are going to discuss spirituality and what that means in terms of recovery. So, in recovery, you hear the term spirituality a lot. It definitely has a bunch of different meanings, and I think depending on who you ask, you'll get different definitions. So, I'm going to just kind of talk to you about my experience and what that word means to me. So, spirituality, first off, to me, is very different than religion. Religion is more about what you practice. For example, do you go to church, temple? Does your family have a certain culture, a certain belief system, perhaps? To me, spirituality is very different from that. Spirituality is the kind of values and beliefs I have that dictate my day-to-day life. So it's not to say that spirituality and religion can't at some points go together, but for me, they're very different in purpose. I've heard things like religion is what you do and spirituality is who you are, or something like that. Maybe I'll put the quote up if I can find it. The idea that we open ourselves up to help. A lot of us during active addiction, we become very isolated, unwilling to accept that we have a problem, and definitely unwilling to accept the help that we may need. So spirituality is about opening ourselves up to help, to something greater than ourselves. So in NA, for example, they say that you should get a higher power. Most 12-step programs have a concept of a higher power. NA defines it as something that is loving, caring, and greater than ourselves. So that's a pretty open interpretation of what a higher power could be. Some people use that as a group of recovering addicts. And to me, I think that when it comes to working a 12-step program, that kind of concept of a group of people who are loving and caring and greater than myself can help. But I do think it kind of does take away from the benefits of having a spiritual program. So a lot of people talk about nature and the universe and what that means. For example, like the weather right now. Kids are home from school, it's snowing, it's icing. There's something about the power of nature that has always been really inspiring to me. The fact that, just looking outside and seeing the wind blowing the snow and the way the trees look, that makes me feel different than when I look outside and it's just like a beautiful sunny day. To me, that's intertwined in spirituality. I don't know if you've ever, where you live, but I live on the East Coast, and going to the ocean like never gets old. Like watching the waves like hit the sand and knowing that the tides of the ocean impact so much of our daily lives, and how the planet works, and that interconnectivity of just things in nature can cause me to feel very spiritual. I think there does need to be a separation between spirituality and religion in regards to early recovery. I think as we're into recovery more, a lot of people who are religious and who follow certain religious beliefs, which I'm not against in any way, I think they are able to find ways to make their spirituality and religion more cohesive. I do think that in early recovery, that does make things difficult, and I'll explain why. I think a lot of us talk about what our familiarity with what they call foxhole prayers. God save me from this one and I'll never do it again. Um, I think a lot of us, but even people who aren't religious, when you've been at your worst point that you can imagine and you've had enough, like that, please just help me prayer, I think that comes, I think that's something a lot of us can relate to. So a lot of people come into recovery and they have a lot of negative feelings about religion, about God, about being let down. And sure, you can make arguments that God is the one that helped you get to recovery. But these are all personal journeys. These are all things that as a person you kind of have to come to on your own. I can tell somebody how God may have helped them, but like if I, or more for me, let me talk about my experience. I heard the word God a lot in 12-step programs and I was a little turned off because I was, I had one parent that was Jewish, one parent that was Catholic. Like we celebrated Hanukkah and Christmas. Like I studied religion in college. And so I saw how religion can be beneficial. I also studied philosophy and ethics. And you can kind of see how all these topics go together. Like, sure, religion can be beneficial, but you also see the negatives. And it's also generally something that causes a much longer conversation. All things that don't do a whole lot of good when you first get off drugs or, whatever your drug of choice may be, alcohol, weed. When I say drugs, I mean all of it. So spirituality, I think, works best if it's separated from religion when you start trying to figure out what that means to you. If it coincides with religion down the road for you and you're able to make those things work together, then I think that's great. It's not necessary. You can still be a spiritual person and not have any religious connotations, but they can work together. I think in recovery, coming up with that spiritual side and understanding what that means to you has a lot of benefits, and you can keep the religion part out until, unless at some point it works for you. You don't have to worry about theology. You don't have to worry about what your beliefs used to be, what your parents' beliefs are. None of that stuff matters when it comes to spirituality. Spirituality is the feeling of being connected to others. In the recovery community, we talk a lot about it. We're never alone. We always have other people who have our back, who want to see us do well. To me, that's the core of what spirituality means in recovery, is the idea that you're never alone, that there's something that connects you to the greater whole, that makes it that even if you feel all alone in your head and you're around, you're all by yourself, that you're never really alone. That's the important part. Feeling like you're connected to something greater, whether that be God or nature or the universe or whatever. It doesn't really matter. What matters is feeling connected. And so when you have a big network of people and other people in recovery that you're connected to, that spirituality aspect kind of works through people, right? You're feeling the connectivity through other people. But if you're alone and you're afraid to connect and you're not reaching out, there needs to be something that makes you feel a part of. We tend to have more trouble when we feel isolated and alone. So I think when it comes to spirituality, the purpose is to feel connected, to feel a part of. So what is it that you're doing to help you feel a part of when you're all alone? That's spirituality. It's simple. It doesn't have to be what anybody else says it is. And again, if down the road you're able to mix it into your religious beliefs and that works for you, that's fantastic. But spirituality can be something that's helpful even if you're an atheist. It doesn't matter. It's about having faith that you're not alone. At its core, that's what's important. So I would be really, really interested to hear about what you guys think about spirituality and how it works in recovery. I think having conversations about these things is great. Again, I apologize if I sound awful and I look a little awful. Hopefully by Friday I'll be feeling a little better. But I hope you guys all have a great week. And for those of you getting snow, stay safe and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.